This is Work-Life Wisdom. This segment's wisdom cue is protecting our inner strength. Protecting our inner strength. Professor Hakan Ozcelik, what do you have to share with us today?
Elisabeth, protecting our inner strength might be a very important resource for us when we feel like we are being manipulated by our angry managers. I think this is a billion-dollar question concerning how harmful and abusive leaders can be. Abusive supervision has become a very common phenomenon in today's work environments. And we also know that employees leave their managers, not their organizations, a lot of the times.
Can you repeat that? Because that is a key insight.
Employees leave their managers, not their
the
organizations. And simply because immediate managers especially play a significant role in how employees perceive, understand, and respond to their work experience. So if you have a manager who helps you grow as an employee, it's very likely that you'll develop a healthy relationship with your overall organization. But if you are stuck with a manager who's abusive, who uses anger to manipulate you, it's very likely that you'll have a very distorted view of who you are, what your organization is, who other people are, which eventually leads to all these negative outcomes such as reduced performance, turnover, reduced commitment, and so forth.
So we're going to come back to some strategies for protecting our inner strength, but you wanted to go to Robin Fisher today, who joined us on our live Wisdom Studio event.
Exactly. And she's a professor of voice, and she's going to be providing us insights about her role as Pamina in Magic Flute in the Queen of the Night aria scene. So, where is this all coming from? Well, this is a great opportunity for us to look at a character who's being literally busted with an angry mother who manipulates a daughter. And what we asked Robin is, how did you feel in that character when you were being manipulated?
And this is Dr. Robin Fisher from California State University, Sacramento.
I know, Robin, you acted Pamina, and Queen of the Night was singing the aria to you. So within the Pamina character, and also being partially Robin Fisher on stage, how did you feel?
Given that Mozart's work is so incredibly all-encompassing, you don't really have a choice besides what you're expected to sing and what you're expected to do. But the beautiful thing is, when you're on stage and you're hearing the character of the Queen of the Night saying, "Take this knife and kill this man," you realize Mozart did give you a choice. He did give you a choice, because you must respond in a genuine way. And I do believe that that's one of the beautiful things about the way music can help us with anger, is that while this character is raining down anger on my head, I know that my response will be a human response. And I know that I will find it within myself if I allow myself to experience it and go with it. And so every time we played that scene, I felt the anger, certainly, and I felt my desire to turn around and scream right back at her. And then I also felt the need to have a human response, because ultimately compassion was the answer. Pamina says, "You just need to get to know Sarastro. He's a really great guy." And the Queen of the Night says, "No, I need you to do this." And she says, "Mother, I love you, but I can't." And so she showed an understanding for her mother's position, but she took the moral high ground.
So I think now we have a take-home lesson for employees. If you got this manager creating all that anger in a very manipulative way at you, leave your doors for other emotions open so that you don't get abused. Leave the door open to love, leave the door open to compassion, leave the door open to courage, so you don't let yourself to be abused by that anger by just living in your inner world to hold yourself together just like Pamina did.
That's right. You have a choice, and the goal is to always find the humanity within the situation and to take the high ground.
Okay, so Hakan, Robin has just shared with us her character just being assaulted by a more powerful figure, and this often happens in the workplace. So can you talk a little bit about what kinds of strategies we can use in the workplace when we have a manager who is not the good parent?
And I think that happens a lot. And the brilliant thing about this, what we hear from Robin, is that we rarely get this opportunity to observe an employee being abused by a manager. It's not practical research-wise, but that's the power of art, and this is why exactly we are doing this, to integrate scientific research with art, with opera, with music, to look at big questions that do not lend themselves to one or the other. So what we see here is a character on stage responding to a mother who is outraging. And what we hear from Robin suggests that if you have a manager who is using anger to manipulate you, you might have no space. What Robin tells us is that if there's nothing around in the external world, your internal emotional world can be your resource. So if you hold on to your inner strength and if you protect it, and then start connecting with other emotions to buffer anger or hatred, such as feeling empathy, feeling compassion, or feeling, in a way, dignity, will help you to stand against someone who is trying to manipulate you. And I think this is a very important lesson.
And just to break this down, this real world advice is, if you are under attack from above, it may be that the most powerful move you can make is offering empathy and support, that you can be the positive change in the workspace, even if you can't control that manager.
If there is no other resort.
If there's no
because
other
we don't want to
resource.
give the wrong message that just forget about the external world and just focus on your inner world. I think the first attempt should be to
address the problem.
To address the problem, to speak it out, to set your boundaries, to tell the angry manipulator that it's not okay that you are manipulating me, like in the case of Pamina. But sometimes that might not be possible. And that might not be possible, by the way, for a variety of reasons. Maybe the power difference is so high, or maybe the person is not something that you necessarily hate, it's someone that you love. Because some managers can create those quite close relationships that are not healthy, and then get angry at the top of that with some of the employees to make them do things. So there might be a wide range of reasons if the manager is manipulative.
So when we have exhausted all
the other resorts,
all the other resources that exist within the culture and the structure of this particular organization,
we still have our inner strength that we need to protect.
And we can feed that by focusing on others. And also, it's important to not to totally alienate ourselves from the person who is trying to manipulate us and stereotype them. Because what Pamina does is still trying to understand her mother and still trying to feel bits of compassion towards her so they can maintain the relationship no matter what. Because unless the other person is pure evil, there should be a way also to open up that person's emotional resources so they can start realizing what they are doing, ideally. But even if that doesn't happen, at the minimum, protecting our inner strength would help us keep those ethical boundaries. So now, what is really interesting, though, is that who are these managers? Without really stereotyping them, can we get better insights about those managers who use their anger to manipulate others? I think Robin provides brilliant insights about that too when she talks about the Queen of the Night character, whom she was acting towards. And so looking at that segment will give us more insights about who these evil managers are. And let's return to Dr. Fisher.
Anger. Okay. Anger and fear of losing power, feelings of helplessness and desperation permeate her being. She has the smallest role in the opera, and yet it makes the biggest impression because her outbursts are real and very deep, and we identify with them. We sympathize with her plight, and she resorts to very extreme means to self-preserve. In this scene, she is ordering her daughter to kill the king of day, Sarastro. Yeah, just a little light moment there. She orders her daughter to take a dagger and kill him. So, I will read the translation before we hear the excerpt. But I want you to understand how Mozart portrays a queen who is sublime and astonishing. She's expressing her anger and her desperation in a mechanical rage that strikes fear and awe. In other words, she's very controlled and very self-contained. She's not losing it, people. She's on it, okay? So, the emotions you're going to hear and the musical devices that correspond to them. Fury. Listen for sharp bursts of sound, sharp dynamics. Power. Listen for mounting intervals of music, sequences that reach from deep in the earth, way up into the heavens. She's fiery. Listen for extreme high notes in her voice and rapid fire. The musical terms are staccato and arpeggio. And then listen for tension in the quaking tremolos. Impatience, how she keeps on singing. She doesn't stop singing. There are no rests. She's got a lot to say. Long phrases. And how she threatens. She goes into a trance-like moment where you hear the key change and she's using triplets and it just becomes very mechanical. And at the end, her serious final statement, she will bring down the power of the gods in a very declamatory style. So I'm going to read the translation, and then you'll please hear one of my favorite singers of all time, Edda Moser, an Austrian woman, personify the Queen of the Night. Hellish revenge is boiling in my heart. Death and despair blaze all around me. If you do not inflict a painful death on Sarastro, you are not my daughter. You will be outcast, forever rejected. Gods of revenge, hear a mother's oath.
So again, Hakan, we referred to the power of storytelling to help us maybe learn lessons about what we can do and what we would like to not do in our own lives. Robin shared that with us beautifully. So back to these managers, when we're in a situation where that manager or that supervisor, we feel, from our perspective, is abusive or behaving wrongfully, we have to humanize that person, I think, with something that you
because
emphasized.
stereotyping is the last thing you want to do. Then there's no solution. These people are also real human beings. What brings them to these circumstances? So what we see from the Queen of the Night aria analysis is that somebody who is obsessively driven with power and with some inner vulnerabilities that they don't want to show to anybody, or feel that they can do anything to other people, they can manipulate other people, and more importantly, they have the skill to do that. So they can strategically use their anger to manipulate others, can become those manipulative, abusive managers.
So once we've identified that person who's behaving badly, then we really have to move to protecting our inner strength.
Because if there is no way to reach out to this person, maybe we can reach to ourselves in and then start from there. Because if we don't protect our inner strength, we will just dissolve. So there is nothing. We will be just carried away. And we don't want to get to that level of non-control. So we have to find a way to control our psychological world, no matter how abusive the situation is.
And a key tool there is not to isolate. Am I right? Do not become isolated. Be sure that you have healthy relationships with colleagues.
Finding ways to build relationships with other people,
Yes.
so you can make better sense of what's happening. So now, though, following the steps of wisdom, well, what we hear and see in today's episode is that managers can strategically use their anger to manipulate others. But how about the bright side? Managers can strategically use their anger to also maybe make some positive changes in their organization. This is what we'll be focusing on in our next segment.
You are viewing Work-Life Wisdom, pursuing wiser organizational experiences, one question at a time. And we'll see you in the next segment.